Okay, so we are at ensure variable high voltage power supply is set as follows. Output is turned off.
Output turned off.
Dials adjusted for 0 volts DC.
Dials are set for 0 volts DC.
Polarity is set to positive.
Polarity is in the positive position.
Okay, ensure DMM is connected to variable high voltage power supply output.
Alright, so for this 246 high voltage power supply, there are two outputs. There's one on the front, there's also one on the back. So I've selected the back to be for the DMM, so I have a BNC cable connected into the back connector, and I've got my banana to coax adapter, so I have my DMM connected to the back output of the power supply.
Okay. Place electrometer on some insulating material to isolate electrometer from ground potential.
Alright, so we have a wooden desk here in the shop. You'll probably be using a plastic cart, so that would satisfy for that.
Okay. There's a note, when scaling the electrometer, the auto range feature is recommended for performing the multiple measurements that follow.
Alright, and as you can see here for the electrometer, we are selected, the red light is on for the auto mode.
Okay, we've already talked about the volts ohm guard switch on the rear panel is set to off.
And go. Part of the setup for the electrometer is it asks you to place the volt ohm guard switch on the back panel to off. So right here it is, volt ohm guard. It is the left to off. And the other thing that you need to know on the back of the electrometer is the input. So when we're using our little blue test box here, the cord that comes out the top of that test box is the input that goes into the back of the electrometer. So that's the connections on the back of the electrometer.
Amps measurement mode is selected.
When you first turn on the electrometer, it will be in the volt mode. We want to select the amps mode as the bottom button here, so we have a red light next to amps.
Okay. If zero check light is not lit, then press zero check push button.
Alright, usually when you turn on the electrometer, that zero check light will be lit, but if not, you can see, just press the zero check button and the red light turns on.
Okay, press zero correct push button and check display reads 0.
Alright, zero correct is right underneath the zero check, and we have a 0 indicated.
Okay, there's some warnings. Extreme care should be used when working on or in close proximity to energized equipment. Energized equipment may produce a shock. In the setup on attachment 2, the electrometer will float above ground in the potential of the applied voltage. The connector on the coaxial adapter box and cable will also be at power supply potential. To avoid shock, insulated tools such as fuse pullers or insulated screwdrivers should be used when operating the electrometer while the power supply output is on. Okay, we're going to now connect P2 alpha and test equipment as shown on attachment 2.
Alright, we have our cable that is simulating P2 alpha connected to our NI detector test box. Now this test box is the one that's got a triax on one side, it's got the echo connector on the top, and another BNC connector on this side. So it's an NI detector test box, and we're going to connect this up per the drawing in the back. So per the drawing in the back, we have this test box, and that is going to be connected to another test box. So what we're going to use for that is this little blue test box, E2709 alpha. The key thing on this, we've already talked about the fact that the top connector with the wire connected to it is going to be what goes to the electrometer. The key thing is, one side is labeled TUT, the other is bias. TUT stands for tube under test. So that connection needs to be going towards the detector. So we're going to connect the BNC cable on that side to the NI detector test box, which is connected to the detector. And then the other side is bias, and that goes to your power supply. So that BNC cable will be connected to your high volts power supply.
Okay, and then connect shorting plug on position echo of triax to coax adapter box.
So here is our shorting adapter connected. So now we have a continuous path that goes through the high volts power supply, through the electrometer, through the detector, its gas space, and then returns back. We have a completed loop.
Turn on output of variable high voltage power supply.
Alright, so the high voltage power supply, I'm going to turn it on. And the procedure tells me to turn the output on.
Okay, note a minimum of 1 minute must elapse before pressing the zero check push button to extinguish the zero check. And now we are going to set the high voltage power supply for the specified outputs and record the electrometer current reading on attachment 4.
Alright, now we're going to go to our chart, which refers us to what voltages we're going to be setting. The first voltage we're setting is 25 volts. So we'll adjust that. For 25, we have a variable knob here. So we have 25 volts set on the high volts power supply. We'll wait 1 minute. And using our insulating tools, we're going to turn off the zero check on the electrometer. So we're going to assume the 1 minute has elapsed. And we have a reading of 0.04 picoamps. Turn your zero check back on and go to your next setting. The next setting would be 50 volts. We have 50 volts. You would wait your 1 minute for everything to stabilize. And again,
1 minute later.
and you can see it's still stabilizing a little bit. .03 picoamps. Zero check back on. Next reading is 100 volts.
And so on. Okay. Good?
Marvelous.
Okay.
Alright, now we're at the 400 volt reading, and just because of the test setup we have, we're not getting the kind of indications you would get into the plant. But notice now that our electrometer, now that we're up in voltage, is reading negative. This is to be expected. All of your readings should be negative. If you really trace out the circuit path that you have established here, the current goes through the electrometer backwards. So the reading is going to be negative. You're going to record that on your data sheet just as a positive number. Just understand that this is an expected reading.